This episode of the Blokebusters podcast, sponsored by Salon 4110, owned and run by my good friend Alicia Di Rosario. It's located in the Salon Lofts on 925 Polaris Parkway, loft number 5. It's a great concept. You just rent a loft, and it's your own business, and she's awesome. Friendliest person you're ever going to meet. Super sweet, extremely professional, does a great job. And right now, she will do a discount for 10% if you listen closely on this episode for the secret message or word. So pay attention, folks, and she will honor that 10% discount. And I'm telling you, you got to go there for nothing else than the scalp massage. Just try to stay awake, I dare you, because it's magical, and God bless her. Go to Salon 4110 and go see my good friend Alicia.
Welcome to episode 25 of the Blokebusters podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Brian.
Alrighty, today is September 23rd, 2013, and we will be talking about films made from books, and we might have a little discussion on whether or not we're willing to accept short stories.
Stories, novellas, scratches on a napkin.
I mean, chances are we'll throw in a couple of those, but whatever. Mm-hmm. But first, I would just like to remind you to either follow us on Twitter at Blokebusters or on Facebook at .com/Blokebusters, or you can email us at blokebusterpodcast@gmail.com. We did have another one, but that's going to expire soon, and I unfortunately don't have the spare money to get that back, so the misspelled one.
Shit, folks. We're down to one email. Deal with it.
I know. Given the torrent of emails we've had coming in, I'm sure.
The influx. Well, yes, now that we're down to one, it's just, we're going to see it go through.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Alright, so, main reason why we sought to do this was that I had never read Ender's Game. And with the film going to come out in 2 months now, I think it is,
Not soon enough.
I figured that I should read it, because I knew it was a good book. And with the film coming out, I wanted to be knowledgeable of that, because I do think that as much as possible you should know what you're dealing with when you go into the film. I do know you said that you've not read the Harry Potter books, so for you the films are their own entity, as it were. I don't know if you've seen any of them.
I have seen all but like the last two? Last one, maybe.
Alright,
I don't know.
So that says to me you kind of don't care how it ends.
I don't give a shit. No. I mean, no, I saw, what, was it Deathly Hallows the last one?
Is that it was broken into two.
But yeah, I saw the first part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
I'm guessing he wins.
Yes.
I'm going to see it at some point, but, I don't need the details. But I don't know. It's just, they're good enough. I don't have the fondness that you do for them, but they are decent films.
Well, this is going to be the thing with a lot of these films, is that books are such an intimate thing that if you like them so much that maybe you don't want to see the film, or you go and see the film and you like the film less because you think, oh, it didn't have this in it, or it didn't have this, or it did this wrong.
So I think we should save this for my rant a little later on.
But then I was going to say,
Blokebusters rants.
There are people that don't read the books and then go and see these films, and then either then read the book because of that, or don't read the book at all. But just like,
and I'd like to say that we hopefully are not going to discuss the atrocious practice of turning films into novelizations, like there are Jack Reacher novels. Yeah. And wait, I think those actually existed first.
They did. They were the books.
But you know what I mean, like turning Die Hard or something into a book, or just those.
Or one of those things where I understand taking the concept of that and then creating entirely new stuff with it. For instance, there is Monk books that follow on after the end of Monk. There was one that I saw and I almost picked up just because I wanted to go, which is everyone's moved on and Monk has himself a girlfriend.
Okay.
And it's like, given how Monk ended, I always figured he would probably still be alone, just with an assistant, but apparently not, no. But with this, we want to try and talk about the nature of these films, and I want to ask the question as well of whether books are best done as filmed or maybe as TV shows or even just mini-series. And there have been some of those that have been really good. One that I mentioned to you before was Day of the Triffids. It was first done as a film in the 60s, I think. It was done as a mini-series in the 80s. And then in 2009, the BBC did a 2-episode, 3-hour mini-series of Day of the Triffids, which was fantastic. So that's...
Take your word on that.
And then again, I do know Day of the Triffids is not the biggest book, so they could probably do more with that.
Yeah.
Although I haven't said this to you yet. Now, having read Ender's Game and seen the trailer for Ender's Game, why have they spoiled the ending?
You know, I don't know.
What is it with trailers nowadays?
I hate and love trailers at the same time. We've gone over this before.
I know they need...
I don't know why they, whoever's in the marketing of these things that decides, well, we need something to pull them in. I don't know why you just can't be a little more clandestine in your approach, because that makes me want to see something more than showing me everything. I want to be left hanging. I love teasers. The Man of Steel teasers were incredible.
Yeah.
And I because you just see him just rocket up at the end.
Yeah.
Just 30 seconds. That was wonderful. That's all I need to pique my interest. I don't need to see everything that's going to blow up in the whole movie. I don't need to see the football stadium in Batman. I've gone over that 100 times. But, yeah, I don't know why they need to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Because it's a great... I don't think we should spoil something that hasn't come out yet. No.
But for those that haven't seen it.
But I know, I'm sure there are plenty of people that have read the novel. But it's something that, I don't know, you like to figure things out early, but did you see it coming, reading the book?
I had... I know this is going to be really odd for people that haven't read the book.
Yeah, what the hell we're talking about. Yeah. Just hit your 15-second button ahead a few times. You're good.
I had a guess. And I actually also had an alternate theory, which I gave up halfway through the book because I realized that wasn't going to be the case. And yeah, I kind of guessed it, and this is why I like reading so much. I'd almost forgotten my idea when I actually got to the end. I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. I can give a little clue. If you've seen The Last Starfighter, it's like that, taken to the next level. That's all I'll say.
I was thinking as well with that trailer, and we're talking about Ender's Game for a little bit. This did spark the podcast. Why? I think they should have, in the trailer, just shown more of the battle school stuff. Make a couple of those fights be in the trailer, and then skip out the one thing, which I'm not going to say what it is that spoils it, but the thing that spoils it, cut that out entirely, and then people that go and see the film, it'll be the same sort of thing as another film which I've forgotten off the top of my head, but you only saw the first half an hour in the trailer, and then the rest of it was like, wow, there's so much more to this film. They could have done it like that. You get halfway through the film and it's like, oh, I've seen everything that was in the trailer, and it's still going. Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, I think it's going to be an enjoyable movie. But
yes, I am definitely looking forward to it. I like the three main people in my head. The three main people on that list. I like all of them. Yeah. So yeah, this should be a good film.
You never know how it's going to turn out, But yeah,
which we can kind of go into now, I suppose. Then let's name a couple of different franchises then. Obviously, we mentioned there's Harry Potter, which is a big franchise, and Lord of the Rings, and I think those two kind of competed for a while as the big film
there's
series
no competition.
Yes,
for the grown-ups.
Yes, all right. I will argue that the later Harry Potters were as good as most of the Lord of the Rings film.
Okay.
But yes, Lord of the Rings as a whole, probably the better series of film.
Yeah, and see, that's one of those, I think it's a good jumping off point for me, because that's something I read early on, and then I reread as I knew the movies were coming out.
Right.
So it's something I've held near and dear for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's always one of those things, like a lot of filmmakers have said, I thought, reading those, there's no way this can ever be put on screen.
Yeah.
There's way too much going on. Tolkien is so dense and so thorough in his history and his backstory and just all of his creations. There's no possible way, if you do it, it's going to look horrible. And there's no way you're going to be able to condense. The novels are enormous and they're immense. And you have chapters of just 1,000 years of backstory.
Yeah. It was the sort of thing that what they're doing with The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings should have been a 9-film epic if they wanted to put everything in the book.
Well, let's not get into stretching the shortest novel into the longest, into just as many films as the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
But yeah, that's the thing. There's so much in some of these books that you figure, how can they fit so much into these films? And I do think Lord of the Rings, on top of the fact that they made them really long, so you were able to get more in, they were able to trim, for the most part, a lot of the stuff that really was superfluous. You didn't.
No, that's what I wanted to get to. They Peter Jackson and his partners, they kept the core in, and they kept the heart of the books in the film, and the messages that are important. And the world came alive, and I'm not one of those. Where's Tom Bombadil? Oh, I miss Tom Bombadil.
I was going to say, when I read the book, I actually read all 3 books in a week when I was in France. Mainly because I didn't want to go outside and do the stuff that there was to do at this French Euro camp thing. So I stayed inside and read all 3 books. And before I went on holiday and I said that I would take them with me, one of my friends said, "That's fine, skip Tom Bombadil. Skip that chapter." And I said, "Okay." So I read all the books and I skipped that chapter and I got to the end of the book. And then I thought, so I wonder if I missed anything. And so I went back and I read that chapter and I realized there was nothing in that chapter that was of any importance whatsoever.
That was filler, yeah.
Utter filler.
But I mean, there were people that were upset with the Two Towers. I remember this because if you read the Two Towers, you remember that it is broken into 2 sections, and it follows Frodo and Sam and Gollum all the way through the entire novel. And then I forget who's first. I think Frodo and Sam might be second. And then you have Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli, and they're one half.
Yeah.
That does not work in a film.
No.
No one's going to watch a film and then it ends and then it starts again. It ends. You have to have the intercutting. And I remember people upset, like, "Oh, that's not the way it was in the novel." You got to build the suspense in a film. And when you're reading, that's fine. You're like, "I can't wait to get to see what Frodo and Sam were doing at this point," because it's your own world. But it doesn't function that way in film.
That unfortunately is also probably a sign of exactly how different film audiences are to book readers. In that most book readers, you do get sucked into that, and you tend to remember more of it. If you were watching that as a film, you're having to watch it, listen to what's being said, and then think back to the other video and audio from an hour and a half ago to remember exactly where in the timeline this is. Which, as you said, it doesn't work in that medium. You're going to get so many people that are not going to like it because it did that even the, let's say, 1% of people who were the core fans who went to see it and got upset about the fact that it wasn't like that, they're not going to risk upsetting the other film goers that know not very much about it. So,
really getting upset about about events happening out of sequence, sometimes you got to make things work. You just, like, "Oh, that didn't happen till then," or that character never had that line, or it was similar to a line in the book, but it's different. I don't know. Well,
I would even point out that sometimes it's impossible to do what's on the page, and for very specific reasons. For instance, let's go with the first film, The Balrog. There are 2 separate descriptions of the Balrog in the book. One of them states that the smoke unfurls as if he had wings. The second one states that his wings unfurled like leather. So the book doesn't know if it has wings or not. So how do you do that in the film? Obviously, clearly they just went with the wings. But a lot of these films are like that. Now, I will be slightly hypocritical and say that there are some books that, let's say, there's either so little in it that you changing so much of it will just make it something completely separate in and of itself. But also, and I think I might have mentioned this on this before, we have talked about it, the World War Z film. Which took the idea of the book and went with it, sort of.
So I'm guessing had it been called something else, you would not have had it initially.
Yeah, if I'd have heard that it was...
If there would have been, like, if it had a different title, and then, like, there's a title card in the opening credits based on the novel World War Z, something like that.
Something like that. I mean, I would prefer inspired by.
Inspired by,
because
yeah.
anyone that has read the book knows exactly how it's structured. It really is. You see interviews of people before the attack happened, when the attack happened, after the attack happened. And this film was, as far as I was aware, during the attack, at the outbreak, I would say, at least at the outbreak in America, and one character following them through this, which makes sense if you're following one of the interviews, but again, it wasn't a character from the book. It was just taking the idea of the book and being like, okay, this is how this might have worked out. And they made the zombies run, which didn't happen in the book as well.
But, I don't know.
In this day and age,
I
zombies
have no
run.
connection to the novel whatsoever, and I think the movie is very well done. I think it's a great movie, and I have nothing to compare it against.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Exactly.
But
So,
I thought it was a very good film, very well done, and I thought it was a nice take on the zombie flick, which just follows not just one person trying to save the world, but one family.
Right.
Trying, to survive this.
I fully understand it, and it is a shame, and it's something that happens to a lot of people that read these books, is that I don't know if I can ever watch it without just being like, this isn't that.
Yeah, I might as well go into the rant and get it over with quick,
right.
because, and I alluded to it earlier, but I'm tired, sorry Paul, of everyone saying, it wasn't like the book. That's why it's a movie, okay? It's a movie. It's allowed to exist separately. And you have to, I'm sorry if you loved the book, the movie's a different thing. Yeah. And it doesn't have to, I think, well, let me be careful about this. I think the filmmaker needs to be careful with the source material.
Yes.
Needs to honor the integrity of it, the overall message, like I said with Lord of the Rings,
yeah.
but within that framework, I think you're allowed to have artistic license. Yeah. I think as long as it conveys the same message, and and if the author is on board with it, then who are we to judge?
Yeah,
that's if like you said, Stephen King sells his rights for $1, so clearly he doesn't give a shit what you do with trucks. Yeah, his trucks running people down. It's basic. Who cares?
Yeah,
but you're never going to compress into a film what you can in a 800-page novel.
Yeah.
That would be 11 hours long. And your ass would be asleep and no one would be there at the end. So, yes, you have to lose things. You have to speed things up. You have to shorten backstories. It's just, you don't have time for all that. When you're sitting on your patio, you got all the time in the world reading that. So, I'm done with people saying, oh, it wasn't like the book. Of course not. That's why it's a film. Yeah. It's a different art form. It's a different medium. It's a collaborative art form, whereas usually novels are solo, unless you have a writing partner or whatever. So I don't know. That's about it. You gotta give it a little leeway.
I do agree, and it's half the reason why I'm not going to sit and watch World War Z at least anytime soon, because I know I'll turn into one of those people that is, this isn't like the book, as I kind of just said. But I'm saying that based on not having seen the film.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to see the film, so I'm not going to trash the film for it. I know that there are so many people out there, you included, that like the film for what it is. And I'm sure it's a fantastic film for what it is, but it is one of those things of, I'm probably a little too...
You're not going to be able to disassociate that from your mind while watching it.
And fortunately, I'm aware enough of that to make the decision not to see the film.
Yeah, it would be like, well, I don't know, it's like, you said in Ender's Game, they spoiled it. It'd be like watching that film first and then going back and reading the book. What's the point of reading the book then? It's like, you're just... Yeah. So...
Well, that'll be the other discussion that I was going to bring up, is that, let's say you have a film that is super faithful to the book, which I'm hoping Ender's Game is going to be like, because with the technology we have at the moment, it could make a fantastic looking film as long as the budget is there. But, there's so many films out there that do so much justice to the book that people will argue, well, why would you need to read the book now that you've seen the film? And I always think that people have missed exactly... I think those people aren't people that read a lot. You get all those people that are like, well, I've seen the film, so I don't need to read the book. Or I went to school with someone who was supposed to give a report on a book. He then found out there was a film, so he gave the report on the film.
Yeah. And your teacher knows, trust me.
It's one of those things of there are unfortunately so many people out there that would just rather see the film and then miss out on the book entirely. And it is one of those things of it is such a different medium that so many people just don't jump onto. Sit down, read that book, and that to tie it back in, that does lead into the issue that you have. People saying it's not like the book is.
And a lot of arguments I hear is like, well, nothing can compete with the human imagination, and I say, bullshit. Have you seen today's special effects?
Yes.
I can never. I'm a pretty imaginative guy, and I could never come up with that shit. And I like creating the world as I read a book. You know, and I get an image of the characters based on the description and stuff. And but still, when I saw the Lord of the Rings film, a lot of points I'm like, yes, that is how Minas Morgul should look. Yeah. Yes, that is how the Balin's tomb should. That is exact. That's yes. I was a little off on it, but that's exactly. It just clicked, and I don't know. I like seeing these things come to life, and.
I sometimes go into films and I'll have an idea of what a character should look like in my head. And what I've probably done is read the description of the character, gone a few pages in, and then based on what the character does and acts like, that's how I think of what the character is like. Yeah. So I might see a film and then the character looks completely different to how I imagine. And I go, oh, that's not right. And then I go back and oh no, that is right. I'm wrong. I've created my own version of this character.
The comedian Pete Holmes, he said he likes watching the film first and then reading a book because he has to do less work. It's all been cast for him. So he's like, oh, Elijah Wood is Frodo, and he can picture Elijah Wood, and he doesn't have to. His brain doesn't have to do as much work. Sure. I'm like, well, I guess that's one way to go about it. But
I had a thing of I read the Harry Potter books growing up, and by about the third book, they started coming out with the audiobook version of it, which my family bought because we, every year, would take a long trip up to the north of England, and we would be up there for a week and we'd come back. And so on that trip, we would listen to the audiobook of Harry Potter, and it was read entirely by Stephen Fry. And so he had these voices for the characters. And from then on, whenever I read that book, this is what this character sounds like to me. And it really is when you get given that one thing, unless you are the diehard fan that has a very strict thing stuck in your head, like that's what you go with. And that is one reason why I like film adaptations of books is you get to, especially if you read the book first, you get to enjoy reading the book and then you get to see it realized in front of you, which is something that...
And great movie, by the way, Adaptation, which is kind of cover, amazing film, but I just wanted to throw that out there, but sorry to interrupt you, sir. Yeah.
But so I guess right now would be a good time to ask then, and obviously I know now, but these good folks don't. What is your least liked film made from a book? And just before we go into that,
I don't know. I mean, does this need to be a book I've read? Because I feel like it's not fair.
I will say we are going to, except for the odd dig, we are going to not mention Twilight here because that is just a bad film series.
I do have the worst movie based off of a great book.
Okay,
and it's by an author we've mentioned already.
Okay.
One of my favorites through my adolescence and to today. It's a book and film called Hearts of Atlantis. Are you familiar?
I have heard the name. I can only imagine Orson Scott Card.
Not quite.
Okay. So, with the fantasy there, although I guess he is more earthbound. So, okay, who's the author?
Stephen King is the author.
Okay.
And it was set up, it's brilliantly set up as, I believe, 5 stories. I might be wrong, it might be 4, but I believe it's 5 novellas compiled together.
Okay, right, so it makes a coherent story in of itself.
Exactly. There are seemingly no connections immediately between these stories.
Right.
But it all weaves together in the
love
end.
that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So when they go and do the film, what do? Just the first part.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Where it's based off a title. It has Anthony Hopkins in it. and Anton Yelchin, who, you know, Star
Chekhov.
Trek, and and Charlie Barlow, you know, nice guy. But yeah, they just deal with the Yellow Men and like the FBI guys, and you have no backstory, and it doesn't go anywhere. And it's just this relationship with this old guy and this young guy, like mentoring thing, and it's an utter piece of shit. And Stephen King should get his $1 back. It is absolutely horrible. Scott Hicks, fuck you for ruining. But I mean, that's one of those where I was so excited when I heard they were making this a movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, because I can't wait to see when they go into this story, and I can't wait to, you know. What should have been done is it should have been done in like 2 or 3 parts, 2 or 3 films. Maybe that was the plan. I don't know. Maybe financing fell through. Maybe I need to cut him some slack. I don't know the whole research. Right. But either way, Hearts in Atlantis by itself sucks a big one. And the novel you need to read because it is so well done. And it's nothing like Stephen King's ever written before. It's not horror. It's got so much heart and depth to it, and intrigue, and there are some spooky parts, but it's not like Carrie or Christine or or The Shining or anything. It's a grown-up world novel, kind of frightening as far as the real world we live in.
Right.
But no super duper supernatural things. Kinda, a little. Because he always has to throw that in there. Yeah. But, I mean, it's nothing like he's ever done with the stories just going back and forth and just, it's so well done. And the movie just totally let me down. So that's, Hearts in Atlantis. I'm still not over it. Like, I really wanted to see that brought to life. But, seriously, read that, Paul. Because
okay.
I think I have it at home. But
well, if you do, I will borrow it from you. If not, write it down and I will go to the library.
But yeah, that is mine. What is your worst film adaptation?
Alright, well, sweeping Twilight its own category off to the side. I had real trouble with this because as you went on your rant before, like not like the book and blah blah blah, I had real issue with the 5th Harry Potter film because that book is the thickest book in the entire series.
Okay.
And it was made into one film that wasn't even the longest film in the series. And I agree, there was stuff in there that could be cut out. But if they'd shot that into 2 films like they did with the last book, which technically could have just been a really long film and they would have been fine, they could have had so much more.
They only would have sold 1 ticket, Paul. Not 2.
Well, there you go. They could have had 9 films. How much money would that have brought in?
Yeah.
But all of this stuff was taken out with the house elves, which as Dobby, a main character from the thing, he was one of the house elves, and the subplot of Hermione was so annoyed with the concept of house elves that she went around trying to free them and trying to create this thing which would help to free house elves in houses where they're being, kind of like the RSPCA type thing, which is called something else over here. So it's the ASPCA, the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Well, that could have then come back like it did in the books, with the house elves being on their side during the final battle, and it could have added an extra layer to it. But they didn't do that. They cut out so much in there, and so I was always slightly annoyed with that they didn't cut that one. It's too hard. But upon reflection, I thought of something which was just a bad film from so little material, which was, and I'm almost ashamed to say I've seen this film, The Cat in the Hat.
Did not live up to the Dr. Seuss novel.
I didn't like The Cat in the Hat, the book. And this film was awful.
Well, that gets me back. I think we might have covered in another episode of things that don't need to be made into movies. Short stories, The Grinch. Well, there was one, I don't know, I went off on months ago. But yes, these things that don't need to be extrapolated into 90 minutes.
Yeah. I will actually say that The Lorax is a good film and takes the spirit of the book and really runs with it. So I think that one was good. And obviously the environmental messages was in there, so try and get kids and so on and so forth. But yeah, The Cat in the Hat, I honestly don't know, and apologies if he's listening, which he won't be, Mike Myers, I don't know what he was thinking with that one.
I don't know how, if he owed a favor, if it was really well pitched to him. But yeah, I normally enjoy him in things.
Yeah.
For the most part, maybe not so much anymore. I think he's kind of run his course for me.
I've not seen him in too much stuff recently.
Yeah, but that I think on a Christmas special or something. I think we me and my friend Dustin, who did our music and our design, wanted to see Elf, and the girls wanted to see Cat in the Hat. So we saw Cat in the Hat. And we know who would have won that. Which movie is done better.
I guess
and which directors has gone.
I guess the best question to that would be then, did the girls then see Elf later and agree that would have been the better choice? Oh, okay.
No, saw it, but no. Of course, they're stubborn. Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't recall exactly, but I remember being bored from minute one of that film, and it didn't get better.
There are so many things in that film where it was like, I can kind of see what you were trying to do.
It's like the SNL films that don't work. It's like, just because it exists or works as a 5-minute sketch doesn't mean it's going to work as a film. And that Cat in the Hat movie could have been 5 minutes. That could have been a YouTube video. That was, hey, look, someone made a YouTube video of Cat in the Hat. That would have been fine.
Yeah, or even, I know the money wouldn't have been spent on it, but I'm fairly certain there was a animation done of the book at one point. Like, try and do the live action of that. Yeah. Make it 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Yeah. Don't go the full almost hour and a half.
So another, along those lines of a beloved children's book is Where the Wild Things Are. And
I have not seen that one.
And I guess that's a challenging thing. I shouldn't be so critical because I imagine that's a very challenging world to
probably
reimagine on film. But I was pretty let down by that experience. It looked good. I mean, visually looked good.
I'm sure it
but
did,
I was
from what I saw of it,
quite bored throughout. And there were a couple of good moments, but I was just like, whew. I was checking the watch of that one. But it's one of those that, at least over here, every kid remembers being read Where the Wild Things Are,
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. That's your worst?
Yeah. Well, that was going to be... I was going to ask you as well, since we're kind of on the topic, the kids' books made into films. Like, the Roald Dahl books, they made the BFG as an animated film, like, a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And that one was, like, really good. It actually came together with that. And then they made Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Mm-hmm. Because I had to think, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is about Charlie. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is about Willy Wonka. Yes. I really like that, even though Roald Dahl himself said he didn't like the film and it didn't do justice to his book. Mm. And then apparently his widow said that the recent one did justice to it, which...
It did justice to nothing.
I will actually say I've reread the book, I think 5 years ago, and on reflection, the second film does follow the book better.
But it's a horrible movie.
But I do prefer...
And put a lot of short people out of work.
Yes. Mm-hmm. If that's your main gripe with the
film. Hey, I like supporting the short people. So what's his name? I don't know.
Deep Roy.
Deep Roy, yeah. We don't need 4,000 Deep Roys in the movie, but apparently Tim Burton disagreed.
Well, the only other films that I had written down... I actually haven't seen any of the Bourne films, so I cannot speculate on.
Yes, those are completely different. Different time period. I think the novels are in the 70s or something.
Right.
Kind of the CIA world.
I can understand that.
They had to update everything, so it wouldn't have been as interesting if it was done retrospectively.
It would have been.
And you have all the cool new gadgets and stuff to deal.
I would say in that case, then you're trying to do what? You're basically trying to do Born in the time of Argo. I don't see that.
Yeah, so that's more of like your World War Z inspired by
the
Bourne novel, because there are very few similarities. I think he's much older in the novels. Right. They're really good novels.
I'm sure they are.
And I'm really pissed that he sold the rights to the novels, because now you have some asshole writing them. It's like and I hate when authors do that and just like, I guess it's your baby, but it's our baby too.
Yeah.
And now you're letting someone that's just, you're going to take on the characters and just continue stories forever and ever and ever. Like the last Bourne movie was not written by him. It was with Jeremy Renner, and it's like.
Well, is that technically a Bourne film, since it's not the Jason Bourne? It's another guy.
I don't consider it.
I know it's. I know it's of that series, but
yes, It will be left out of, yeah. If it's in a Blu-ray combo pack, I will be throwing that one in the trash. Much like Rocky 5 or Godfather 3.
I know someone that would
These
fight you
will
on
be
Rocky
coasters.
5, but yeah.
I will use these as coasters.
Yeah, laminate them, use them as coasters. There you go.
Yeah.
They'll go, oh, how do you get it so lifelike? Well, it actually is.
Yes. I figured it should have some use, other than making my TV sick.
Alright, well, the only other ones I wrote down, I got 5 that I wrote down that I'll just run through quick then. You got 1984, which the film was alright. The Narnia series, which...
Oh, I wrote down that, yes.
Which,
that was a letdown for me as well.
Yeah, I thought I could see...
I thought there'd be a lot more hype and
Lion, the Witch,
a lot
and the
more
Wardrobe
successful.
did some of it well,
I've
but
not
fell flat
seen
on a
any
few
since.
things. And yeah, I've not seen
Well,
any
I
of the
saw
other ones.
part of Prince Caspian, or I think.
Right. My main issue with what they did was that they did it out of order.
Yeah.
Like, Prince Caspian is the last book. So why would you do that and then go... They then went back and did the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which I think is the 3rd book or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
Yeah, that was one of those I read in 6th grade. I read all, we only had to read Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but I loved it so much I bought the whole collection and just read them all. And
I mean, I do
because
understand...
I was the nerd and I wanted to read for pleasure.
I do understand why they didn't start with The Magician's Nephew, because if you look at the whole thing, based on what I remember, it really is of itself type thing. And then Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe sparks the rest of it. But I think The Magician's Nephew, if given to the right people, could be done as a solid standalone film with a slight connection.
But yeah, I think that's one of those where I had a lot of expectations, and I was like, it was all right. It's all right. 6 out of 10, something like that.
Right. But, Wizard of Oz is another one, and I guess The Great and Powerful Oz as well.
Yeah.
I was never a fan of The Wizard of Oz. I've never read the book.
But The Wiz.
I've seen The Wiz. I enjoyed that more than
or
Wizard of Oz.
what was it? Tin Man, the miniseries with Zoe Deschanel,
That was
which
good.
was really good.
That was really
good.
Which I think...
Zoe.
I know.
I'll give it...
but I think that is strengthening my argument of... A lot of these films really should be
better
sort
broken
of
down into
mini-series. Mainly because you can go more into it. Like, obviously, it's not going to be the 24 episode slog.
Yeah, because you're going to have it, even if they're only hour parts, you're going to have like 3 hours of material as opposed to an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah. Or even do what Sherlock did, which is each book inspired an hour and a half long episode.
Yeah, which they are essentially films into themselves,
Which, as anyone that listens to this would know, we are big Sherlock fans. Cannot wait for the 3rd series to start. I thought The Great and Powerful Oz was better than The Wizard of Oz, mainly because I don't like The Wizard of Oz, and apparently it really is inspired by the actual book. It's really going with what that's on there. Planet of the Apes was another one that's kind of got out of control, I think. That series really went out there. And then last one, I didn't write this down last, but last one I'm going to mention, War of the Worlds. Okay. The Tom Cruise adaptation of it. Yeah, I think for that one, the original radio broadcast by, I believe it was Orson Welles. The first episode came out and people genuinely took to the streets in a panic because they thought an alien invasion had started. Like, that is something that you're never going to get the feel of in that film.
Sorry, 1 second, Paul. The password is Edward Scissorhands.
Ooh. Right,
Go ahead.
Yeah. So you're never going to get the feel of that in the film, which I think hurt it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then some people will say Tom Cruise hurt it as well, and I do think that it worked so much better as a book and a radio series that the film was always going to disappoint.
Gotcha. All right, let me run through mine real quick that I had. Did you go through your favorite?
I was going to have that up next if you didn't have any more to add.
Okay. Well, go ahead and get your favorite out there.
All right, my favorite, I'm not going to say Shawshank Redemption. That is just my favorite film.
You just did, sir. I hate to nitpick.
Fine. I'm not going to say that it is Shawshank Redemption because it is based on the novella I have never read.
Okay. Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, yes.
And it is just my favorite film, period.
That collection of all stories, though, is a great collection. If you get I forget the name of it right now, but I do have it. But yeah, the one that contains Rita Hayworth. Yeah.
I will look into that then.
Yes.
The one that I went for then actually is my second favorite film, and it is based on a series of books which technically could be called graphic novels, but it's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which Edgar Wright was the director and did fantastically. And if you listen to the fans of the books, it follows it so well. Like, he got that world, he got that book series, and he did change. Well, he changed the ending in as much as the last book wasn't published by the time that the film came out. Mm-hmm. So he went with the ending that he thought made sense, and the original author was going to go with a different ending from what was in the film. But then I think, slightly based on what he saw in the film, he then went with that ending as well. And I think it's a fantastic thing of art transferring the way we want it from a book series that was just so much fun to a film that is just so much fun. Like, it's almost the perfect
that
thing
has
to make
so
it
much rewatch value.
Yeah.
Like, if there's nothing else, like, you can just throw on Scott Pilgrim and watch 20 minutes or half an hour, and it's entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, it is the one thing that I hadn't mentioned so far would be that graphic novels clearly will easily make the jump to film as long as you have good writing and good directing.
And someone at the helm, someone
for instance, I
that
would
understands
say
it.
Sin City. Mm-hmm. Like, that was done entirely in the style of that graphic novel series.
Yeah,
And
it's one of the director has to understand the material and has to actually, I think, love it too.
Yeah, you have to have someone.
Which this isn't based off a book, but which was a big part of Ang Lee's The Hulk. Was it? Or
Ang Lee's Hulk, or because Ang Lee did the first Hulk, which flopped. I think one liked that one.
Because he didn't get it. He didn't. That's not the guy you get. But either way, I digest. Let's move it on here.
Yeah, it was basically as you were saying there. You need someone that has something to lose with that. Like, this is what they grew up liking. Now, either that or this is what they enjoyed reading. So now they have to be good for it because they want to make that film that they want to see.
And that leads, hopefully, are you...
Yeah,
okay, I don't want to step on your toes there. Yeah, that leads perfectly into one of my favorite books and one of my all-time favorite films, directed by David Fincher, who's also one of my favorite directors. Yep. I love David Fincher films. Good. Fight Club.
Fantastic film.
Which actually, in a rare occurrence, I saw the film first and did not know of Chuck Palahniuk, who is one of, I would say, he's my current favorite author. Like, I read anything by Palahniuk. He's just so honest and so raw in everything, and his humor comes from such a natural place. And it's disturbing and disgusting and just shocking. Every novel is just its own world. And, always tales of the outsider, fringe groups. But, I saw the film first and was just blown away. I remember seeing the trailers and I'm like, I don't want to see Brad Pitt with his shirt off just fighting people. That's for women, but it's such not that, so not that. Yeah. But I love the film, so I had to go and get the book. And read the book, and I was like, "Oh, this is a little different." But I was just as entertained with the book. I mean, I really saw that David Fincher loved the book, and and people involved really wanted to honor it. And there was a great commentary track with David Fincher and Chuck Palahniuk on the DVD, where Chuck Palahniuk kind of gives him some shit about stuff he left out, and gives him shit about things he changed, but he's overall happy with the result. So that's mine. I think both are great, and I can take either one. I'm not upset.
Right.
Maybe it's because I saw the film first. That might be part of it. I didn't love the book first, but now I have read every book of his, and I read Choke before it became the Sam Rockwell film.
Right.
And I did have some issues with Choke, but it was still a good film.
Yeah.
But I prefer the book, blah, blah, blah. But, I did want to really, really quickly talk about The Green Mile.
Okay.
Because have you read that?
I have not.
And if anyone remembers, Stephen King released that as a serial.
Really?
It was broken up into, I believe, 7 very short novels. I think they were all around 100 pages, 150 pages.
I can see how that could work. And
there was episodes, and you just would wait, and they were, less than an inch thick. They were like half an inch thick, maybe a quarter of an inch thick. And I just went down to the newsstand in my hometown, and I'd buy the new one and read it, and I'd read. The first one I think was John Coffey or something, or introduced John Coffey, and the one was like the horrible death or something of Edward Delacroix, which is that whole tale of Percy, not wetting the sponge and Delacroix roasting alive, essentially, and that was a whole story, and it worked so well, and you got to look forward to each one coming out, and that's an experience that you don't get a whole lot.
Yeah.
But what Frank Darabont did with the film, I thought was wonderful. If I'd have to say, that's probably my second favorite.
Right.
Like, you can kind of see the episodic nature when you watch The Green Mile.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's almost kind of the same as...
It spans, it spans Paul, I think his name, Paul, his whole life. But, I loved those books, and I think they did as good a job as you could do with the film.
Yeah.
But that's one of those situations I never envisioned it working so well. But it did.
Well,
if you buy it now, you cannot get those individual. The Green Mile is now just one novel.
Well, yeah.
But it was so cool because you just like the books were like $3 or something, you just go get your. It was brilliant. I mean, he made a lot of money that way. I think they were also available online or something. I don't know. It was very early on.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, I don't know. It was either released in newspapers. I don't know. My memory's not serving me well, but I'm tired of hearing myself talk, Paul.
That's fine.
Save me.
All right. Well, shall we jump into recommendations if we have them?
Yeah, let's get some quick recommendations out of the way.
All right. Well, you just go first so you can get your talking out of the way.
Let's start the clock. 30 seconds for each of us. I'm going to go with another Netflix original. Netflix is a serious contender in original programming. I never thought I'd say that, but it's their next one with collaboration with BBC4, I believe.
Yeah.
Derek. It's Ricky Gervais' new vehicle. It's set in an old folks' home, nursing home, whichever the PC term is. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But it is... I don't know, if you have a heart like me, you might want a tissue or two next to you. If you're a soulless robot like Paul, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Hey, blank.
Blank, yes. Anyway, either way, still entertaining for soulless robots.
Yeah.
Soulless blanks.
Just soulless, period.
He's, a little slower, and he's got so much heart and kindness. And
Yeah.
It is really funny and very touching. But I have the only series I've finished and then immediately started watching again.
Right.
So I've now seen it twice. That's go check out Derek. And you, sir?
Well, mine is something that's being released on DVD, so it's not exactly an unknown type thing. But I did mention it to you before. It is so far the first two of the trilogy being released of Atlas Shrugged. Part 1 and Part 2. It is a brilliant story. I've never read the book.
Speaking of book, nice connection there with books.
Yeah, again, a book that I haven't read. I didn't actually know existed until...
Really? You've never read anything by Ayn Rand?
No, I'd heard the name, but I'd never read anything by her. And these films, the world that has been created, and like Atlas Shrugged Part 1 leads up to the first time a partner that two of the people are with disappears, and the second film is dealing with more of this happen. And based on what I know now a little of the book, it seems that the third film is going to be really fast paced because there has to be a lot more that happens.
Yes, I have not seen the films yet, and it's been years and years since I read the book.
But yeah, I normally am not that into like the sort of civil aspects of this stuff, but these films really drew me in. And it's a fantastically woven story. So if you have, I think at this point it's about 3 hours for the two of them to spare, sit down and try and watch them in one go. If you can't, then obviously you got the one, then you got the two. They are just solid films. I think I watched them over like a 3-week period.
Okay.
So,
all right, I will throw those in my queue. I'm looking for new movies. Because all I'm watching is TV on there. But I got great shows on Netflix.
Well, I was starting to have a problem because I'm now getting more into Hulu Plus.
Catch up on Sherlock, folks. It's coming out soon.
Yes.
I just watched Study in Pink again, and I'm going to work my way through their other 5.
All right.
Why not? It's better than anything else I can pick out.
Right.
Guaranteed, pretty much. All right. We've taken up enough of your time.
Yeah, and Lolo agrees as well.
All right, and I've been Brian.
I've been Paul.
Goodbye.
Yeah.